Okay, you ready?
We're on.
Okay, are we ready? Good afternoon. I would like to welcome all members and guests to the February 11th, 2025 Council and Committee meeting. I will remind everyone that our meetings are web streamed and televised. Please ensure that your phones are on the silent mode. For those attending virtually, please mute yourself when not speaking. When called upon to speak, please turn on your camera and unmute yourself. For staff in attendance, please use the Microsoft Teams Raise Hands feature to be called upon and remove it after speaking. Okay, with that, I will call the February 11th, 2025 Council in Committee meeting to order. It would appear all members are present, with the exception of Mayor Martin, who is on leave of absence. Are there any pecuniary interests? See none. Committee has the agenda before them. There are 4 proposed changes to the agenda today. 2 additional deputations from Christine Marshall and Kevin LaCoche regarding agenda item 8.1.2, Clinton Street parking lot. And Councillor Michelli would like to amend the agenda to have staff report CAO 25004, community-led initiatives for the Becker Puller Pavilion proposal moved to follow the deputation on that report. County Manager Menendez has requested to move staff report CS 25018 Clinton Street parking lot proposed sale to follow the deputations related to this report. May I have a motion to amend the agenda to include these changes? Moved by Councillor Very, seconded by Councillor Michelli. All those in favor? That is carried. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Duthie. All those in favor? That is carried. And we do need a 2/3 majority to move the change. Let me get this straight here. Which I guess on Councillor Michelli's request to move that item in the agenda, I need a 2/3 majority vote on that. Can I have a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Vanden Riche. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. We have 2 early closed sessions items today. Can I have a mover for the following motion? That committee enter into closed session at 1:04 p.m. pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Section 239(2)(e) to discuss matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And I need a mover on that. Councillor Duthie, seconded by Councillor Michelli. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll go into session. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah from the Norfolk County Planning Department.
We receive many questions at the Planning Department, and this video series will answer some of those. A common question is, what is zoning? Zoning is a way of categorizing how land can be used. Norfolk County has identified through its zoning bylaw different land use zones, for example, commercial, agricultural, or residential, what they can be used for, and any required standards, for example, building size and location. Zoning must be maintained by any development or activity that has started from the date the zoning bylaw has been passed by the county. What is the process of changing a zoning bylaw? A common reason that residents are referred to the Planning Department is because their proposal does not meet the current zoning bylaw provisions. If a landowner wants to change the land use from what is permitted in the existing zoning, a change in the zoning bylaw would be required. For example, changing the permission from only a single detached dwelling to expand the permission to build a triplex. This is called a zoning bylaw amendment, and it requires council's approval. A planning application known as a minor variance can be submitted for a minor change in the zoning bylaw, such as the height or size of a structure. Minor variances are reviewed by the Committee of Adjustment that is made up of citizen members who are appointed by council. The committee is governed by the Planning Act and holds public meetings to approve applications for minor variances and consents. A minor variance must meet the 4 tests to be approved. 1. The change is minor. 2. The development is desirable for the appropriate use of the land, building, or structure. 3. The change maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. And 4. The change maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. What happens after a decision is made by the Committee of Adjustment? If the committee approves an application, the applicant and anyone else involved is notified. Certain parties can appeal a decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal within a 20-day appeal period. If no appeals are filed, the county issues notice that the decision is final. For minor variances, an applicant can now proceed with the building permit process. For severances, specific conditions must be met within 2 years, or the application will expire and the process will need to restart from the beginning. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We've got a lot of questions here, and this video series will answer some of those. What is a severance? Severance is a planning process to separate a piece of land from an existing lot, generally for the purpose of a new development within a new lot. There are 3 different common types of severances we receive in Norfolk County. The first one is when a piece of land is separated to create a new parcel of vacant land. For example, a landowner may have a large lot and wish to separate a piece of land from the original lot with the intention to sell the lot to a new owner. In that case, both lots need to comply with existing zoning requirements such as setbacks of any existing or new buildings from the property lines. The second one is a surplus farm dwelling severance. It happens when a landowner purchases additional farmlands and a residence on one of the properties is no longer required for their farming operation. In this case, the owner can sever the piece of land that contains the redundant residential dwelling. And the third kind of severance can be a boundary adjustment between 2 adjacent properties, where one property owner agrees to transfer a piece of their land to the other owner. There are various reasons we received a boundary adjustment severance, such as to allow additional lands, to accommodate a building construction, or to construct an extended septic system, or to resolve the setback deficiency of an existing lot. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching. Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We've got a lot of questions here, and this video series will answer some of those. What is a subdivision? If a landowner would like to divide their property into 3 pieces of land, they can submit a severance application that we explained earlier. Whereas a subdivision application is required when a landowner has a piece of land large enough to divide into more than 3 or 4 individual lots to build new houses or other kind of developments. The subdivision process generally requires a more in-depth review with a longer processing time to ensure that the development meets county's development standards. What is a condominium? A condominium, often known as a condo, is an ownership model where the building or group of buildings is divided into multiple units that are surrounded by common areas for circulation, servicing, or amenities such as parks and open spaces. The common areas are jointly owned and managed by the owners of the units. Residential condominiums are frequently constructed as apartment buildings and townhouses with private roads. Many shopping malls are also commercial condominiums in which the individual retail and office spaces are owned by businesses that occupy them, while the common areas of the mall are collectively owned by these business entities. A condominium corporation is often made up of condo unit owners who manage and operate the condominium complex. What is the difference between a subdivision and a condominium? One of the main differences between a subdivision and a condominium development is who is responsible for providing services such as water, wastewater, and road maintenance after the construction and occupancy of the dwellings or units. In a subdivision, the county takes responsibility for providing these services to individual lots. On the other hand, in a condominium, the county is only responsible to providing services up to the entry point of the development. The condominium is responsible for distributing services and the maintenance to the individual units. How are subdivisions and condominiums approved? To get approval for a subdivision or condominium, the landowner must apply for approval of a draft of the plan that shows how many lots are proposed, the lot size, how the lots will be accessed, including any new roads, and how the lots will be serviced for water and wastewater or other utilities. The planning team will provide guidelines to the landowner on the standards they need to comply with. Examples include road design, tree plantation, fencing requirements, and maintaining a buffer from any existing industrial or commercial sites, etc. Generally, the subdivision applications go to council for a decision, whereas most of the condominium applications are currently approved by the county staff under delegated authority. How are residents informed about a new subdivision? When a draft plan of a subdivision is approved, the neighbors receive an approval notice of the application. The neighbors have 20 days to appeal against the approval or refusal of the draft plan. Once the appeal period has expired, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done by the developer before beginning the construction. An approved draft plan of subdivision does not constitute a legal lot. It is merely a draft plan. Norfolk County must ensure that all lots are appropriately designed and serviceable through a subdivision agreement, and only then can the lots be registered and the owner can apply for a building permit. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching. Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We get a lot of questions here, and this video series will answer some of those. What is site plan control? Site plan control is a tool that planners use to evaluate a proposed development to ensure the site features and elements such as walkways, parking areas, and landscapings, and many other technical features meet specific standards. For example, standards may include engineering design, sustainability, and universal accessibility for barrier-free access to the building or within the property. What do I do if I have submitted a permit and I have learned my property is under site plan control? If a property is under a site plan control, the first step is to speak with a planner. A planner will need to learn about what is changing about the lands, which may or may not require a site plan application. What is a site plan waiver? Sometimes the nature of a development is so minor that a site plan application is determined to be unnecessary. In this instance, a site plan control will be waived. If you have learned from a planner that it is appropriate to waive a site plan control, you can submit an application form with any required documents to the planning department to receive a site plan waiver. Do all lands require site plan control? Not all lands require site plan control. For example, single-detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, and townhouses that are serviced and accessed from a public road. Agricultural activities or farm buildings also do not require a site plan control. Most new commercial, institutional, and industrial developments require a site plan control. A site plan agreement with the landowner may be required to ensure that appropriate standards are maintained during the construction period. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching.
Hey Norfolk County! Whether you're a longtime resident, new to the area, or simply visiting, do you know about the many services provided by Norfolk County? As a single-tier municipality, we provide services that our community uses every day, including water and fire protection, curbside garbage and recycling, road and sidewalk maintenance, and so much more. We also provide services needed at unique times in life, such as a marriage or business license, or a dog tag for your new companion. And the unique geographic features in Norfolk County, from farmland and forests to lakes and wetlands, means we also provide specialized services ranging from drainage applications to tree inspections. Wondering how to contact Norfolk County? Start with Service Norfolk. Our friendly team of agents is here to help. Reach us by phone at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. Calling about an issue after hours? No problem. We have you covered. Prefer online? Email askus@norfolkcounty.ca anytime, or use our customer service portal at service.norfolkcounty.ca and get a reply right to your email inbox. Want to visit us in person? Come to one of our friendly customer service counters in Simcoe, Monday to Friday, or Delhi, Tuesday to Thursday. Service Norfolk, connecting you to Norfolk County services.
Deputations are a way for you and all residents of Norfolk County to speak before Council about relevant matters in our community. To begin, search www.norfolkcounty.ca. Then select the Government tab. Under the Government tab, select Provide Deputation/Speak at a Council or Committee Meeting. This page provides general information regarding deputations. Under the subheading Register to Speak, click the Public Hearing/Deputation Form link to pre-register your deputation. Notice of Collection. By checking the Notice of Collection box, you are agreeing to the above statement. Selecting the type of meeting you want. There are several types of meetings that allow deputations. Please listen closely as we explain each option. Council meeting. Council deputations must pertain to a matter listed on the upcoming meeting agenda. For the remaining meeting choices, you may present a deputation if the topic pertains to the committee you are presenting to. Once you select the type of meeting you want to deliver your deputation, you can complete the rest of the document. Now choose whether you will attend the meeting in person or virtually. Finally, select if you will be providing materials during your deputation. If you have materials for distribution during the council meeting, please bring 15 hard copies for council and staff. Now click Next to move to Step 2. In Step 2, please fill out your personal information. Once your personal information is completed, click Next. Lastly, review your information and select Next to submit your form. You have now completed the deputation request form. You will receive a confirmation email from the Clerk's Department that they've received your request. Next, we will talk about what to do on the day of your deputation.
So, you've received your approval and the day of your deputation is upon you. For starters, council is located here, at 50 Colburn Street. Now there's two entrances you can use when you arrive. One is here, located off Colburn, and one located off Talbot Street. When you arrive, you'll have three main options to park. The first is to park at the Simcoe Town Center Mall, which is where Food Basics is located. Your second option is 2-hour street parking on Court Street. And your third option is 2-hour street parking on Lott Street. If you can't find any parking at any of those three options, don't worry. Downtown Simcoe has plenty of street parking in all of the surrounding areas. If you enter through the Colburn Street doors, you'll have to make your way through the building to get to council chambers. But don't worry, if you require any assistance, you can feel free to ask Service Norfolk at the front desk. Make your way along this path and you'll end up in the main lobby. To your left, there'll be an elevator. You can either ring the bell or go ask the people at the front desk for assistance. If you don't need to use the elevator, you can head on up the green staircase and go up to council chambers. If you enter through the Talbot Street doors, the elevator will be immediately in front of you, or the green staircase will be ready for you to go up and deliver your presentation. Once you reach the top of the stairs, you'll have made it to council chambers. Feel free to take a seat here or here and wait for council to call your name when it's time to present. When council calls your name, make your way to the podium and ensure that you don't walk between the railing and the chairs on your way there. When you arrive at the podium, adjust it to your desired height using the arrow buttons and turn the microphone on using the button on the right. If you're giving your deputation in front of council, begin by saying, through the mayor. If you're giving it in front of a committee, begin by saying, through the chair. Then, clearly state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes to give your presentation. Upon having 1 minute remaining, the chair will give you notice. When you're finished your presentation, council may have questions for you. Ensure that you always begin your answer by saying, through the mayor, or through the chair to councillor, and their last name. If you can't answer the question, that's okay. Inform council that you'll gather more information and get back to them. After that, council will have heard out what you've had to say, and they'll take appropriate action as they deem necessary. And now, you've finished your deputation. You can either have a seat and watch the rest of the meeting, or you can leave through the door that you came in and ensure that you leave as quietly as possible.
Hey Norfolk County, did you know that Ride Norfolk is now on demand? This means you can schedule Norfolk's public transit service to pick you up for appointments, shopping, school, or work. Ride Norfolk has partnered with Blaze Transit to offer on-demand pickups at all 95 stops across Norfolk, including this one. I booked my trip earlier today and my bus is here right on time. Since there are no fixed local schedules, you can easily book Ride Norfolk over the phone, online, or on the Blaze Transit app from your smartphone. Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Ride Norfolk's customer service team can help answer any questions you may have, get you started with the app, or book your next ride. By moving to on-demand, Ride Norfolk is helping more residents get where they need to go. To learn more, visit norfolkcounty.ca/transit.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm here to take you behind the scenes for a quick look at what we do at Norfolk County's water treatment facility. Here in Port Rowan, the water treatment process starts by pumping water from Lake Erie up into the water treatment facility. Back in the treatment facility, I inspect large clarification tanks where the lake water enters the plant. Here we add coagulant, a chemical that attracts dirt particles together. These form into larger particles called flock, which eventually sinks and is sent to waste. Next, the water enters the filtration system where any remaining dirt particles are trapped by the filters. The water is then chlorinated and sent into a 113 cubic meter underground storage chamber. The water is then taken to the granular activated carbon filters that work like supersized 10,000 pound Brita filters to remove taste and odor. The final step is disinfection, which includes UV and a final dose of chlorine, ensuring safe, potable drinking water. Water testing is an important part of the job. Throughout the day, we take water samples at different stages of the process, up to 9 tests depending on the treatment facility. As a Norfolk resident myself, I am proud to serve the community I live in. Thanks for joining me in this behind the scenes tour.
Hi, I'm Marissa, and I'm here to take you behind the scenes for a quick look at what we do at Norfolk County's waste and recycling operations. Here at the transfer station in Simcoe, residents can bring a variety of waste materials for disposal. Norfolk operates 2 transfer stations welcoming about 27,000 customers every year and accepts material ranging from bulky items, wood, metal, and yard waste. Norfolk also provides curbside waste programs. Recycling from your home arrives at this facility where it is manually sorted by the type of material. You can see why it's important to separate materials into the correct bin, rinse recyclables, and remove items from bags. This facility processes 4,600 metric tons per year. That's equal to about 20 tons per day. Once items are sorted by material type, they are baled and ready to be shipped across North America to be made into new material. About 8 to 10% of the material that arrives here shouldn't have been put in the recycling bin. Residents can use our Recycle Coach app to confirm if an item can be recycled. After seeing how waste is handled, I hope this video helps show why rinsing and sorting your recyclables are important steps in the recycling process. As a Norfolk County employee, I am proud to serve the community I was raised in. Thanks for joining me on this behind-the-scenes tour.
Hey Norfolk County, whether you're a longtime resident, new to the area, or simply visiting, do you know about the many services provided by Norfolk County? As a single-tier municipality, we provide services that our community uses every day, including water and fire protection, curbside garbage and recycling, road and sidewalk maintenance, and so much more. We also provide services needed at unique
Can I have a motion to reconvene an open session at 1:26? Moved by Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Columbus. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, the following matters were addressed in closed session, and I'll ask the clerk to address that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the committee met in closed session to deal with 2 pending litigation matters before the Ontario Land Tribunal. So if we could have a motion, that direction was provided to staff on both items.
Moved by Councillor Vandenriesche, seconded by Councillor Michele. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Okay, we have one consent item today. That's the information from Roma. Is there no questions on that? May I have a motion to approve the consent item 4.1 as presented? Moved by Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Duthie. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, deputations. We have 3 scheduled deputations today. Committee may accept deputations for information after the speaker concludes. Committee may also direct staff by resolution to bring back a report on any matter for further discussion. And our first speaker on item 5.1 is Heather Smith. Heather, you have the floor. And if you sign the document there, and you have 5 minutes, and we'll remind you when you have 1 minute remaining.
Okay, thank you. Respectfully, through the chair to the council, I am Heather Smith, the president of the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association. We have a current active paid membership of over 240 individuals, and at our recent AGM, the membership approved the idea of building, with council's approval of course, a 10-foot by 16-foot pavilion in Port Rowan's Lions Park, between the Lions Club Picnic Pavilion and the water's edge. The pavilion we want to build would be very similar to the glass pavilion that houses a fishing tug engine just outside of Port Dover's Harbour Museum. But inside our proposed pavilion, we want to exhibit a Becker puller machine and stationary engine that would have run this machine. This machine was invented in Port Rowan, and it was at one time used in nearly 30 fishing grounds all around the inner bay. Seine net fishing is almost extinct now, but it was at one time an important part of the livelihood of Port Rowan fishermen. Seine net fishing involved placing a 1/4-mile long net out from shore into the shallow water of the inner bay, and then over the next few hours hauling the net back towards the shore. Once the net was back at the fisherman's shanty, the fish were sorted and then sold. In the 1800s, seine nets were pulled in by hand, but in the 1920s, with the invention of this machine, the work was made much easier and the nets could be longer. On the signage boards adjacent to the pavilion, we want to do 3 things. Number 1, explain the unique history of this shore-based fishery. Number 2, explain and illustrate how the puller and seine nets worked. And then number 3, tell the story of the inventor of the machine, Charlie Becker. Becker was born and raised in Port Rowan, and he ran a hardware store on the main street for many years. He patented a number of other inventions, including a folding ironing board, a special stovepipe damper, and of course, the famous Becker puller. We have estimated the project will cost $87,000, and to date, we have already raised $45,000. The costs are for a concrete pad, a post and beam wood building, a metal roof, tempered glass panels, and outdoor historical signage. We realize we need a building permit and approval from the LPRCA, both of which we will apply for if council approves the idea of building on Norfolk County property. On our committee, we have a retired civil engineer and architect who has agreed to volunteer to oversee the building of the pavilion. We intend to use local builders and suppliers as much as possible. We also have a group of welders and woodworkers who will restore the puller that we have, regarding maintenance, the Port Dover Harbor Museum has a dedicated group of volunteers that goes and cleans their fishing tug pavilion. They clean the glass and pick up any garbage, and we're proposing to do that same thing at our pavilion in Port Rowan. We have letters of support for the project from the Long Point Lions Club and the Chamber of Commerce. They're in your package or provided to you today. And those letters give you a really good idea of why this is viewed so positively in Port Rowan. We think that this history is important because the shore-based seine net fishing industry is incredibly unique in Canada, and because it is the story of working people and their families. Long Point Inner Bay at one time supported a busy fishing industry. Cutting ice, seine net fishing, fishing party boats, and the Fishermen's Co-op were fixtures of the town. It is our hope as a heritage association that people who use the Lions Park in Port Rowan would gain a greater understanding of this fascinating local history. The location close to the waterfront and adjacent to the harbor is important because it is the kind of place that a Becker puller would have been situated. To help raise awareness and some of the additional funds, we have a fundraiser planned for May 31st in the Port Rowan Legion. Musicians Ian Bell, the Bay Boys, David Wells, and Amber Banks, who comes from a long line of fishermen herself, and others will perform music, and there'll be Douglar Stew, which is a local fisherman's delicacy, as well as silent auction items. We are also going to apply to Trillium Foundation and other places for support. The timeline is that in 2025, we will work to gain the approvals needed to raise the funds, and then in the spring of 2026, building would begin. The Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association wants to enhance the vibrancy of Port Rowan, Long Point, and Norfolk County by expanding the understanding of our unique history and its long and fascinating story. I'm here not asking for any money, but what we do need is permission to build the Becker Puller Pavilion on county property and to enter into an agreement with the county to make this possible.
Thank you. Questions from committee? Councilor Shelley.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Brunton. Heather, thank you very much for that nice explanation and that very thorough history of what this project is really about. And maybe just for the benefit of council, if you haven't already, there is attached to Heather's deputation on our agenda, there is an artist rendering of what this will look like, so you can kind of see that it is going to probably fit very well in that setting in the park in Port Rowan by the water. Heather, just to begin, this will require, as you said, this is going to require some permitting from Norfolk County and from the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. Do you see any potential problems with any of those?
I always think of problems, but I think that no, staff have indicated that assuming we can answer the questions that are asked, that it should be, they don't, the LPRCA did actually say to me that they didn't anticipate any problems. So no, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Chair, Heather, can you outline what you expect the responsibilities of the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association to be in this project?
Yeah, so initially it is to raise the money to build it, and then to look after it in the long term. And we're committed to do that, to clean it and to do, I imagine garbage might blow there and that kind of thing. So we'll look after it in a maintenance kind of way. Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, very good, Heather. And you said that this project you estimate to be about $87,000. You also said something that I think council loves to hear, that it would not cost the county any money. This is a good time after coming out of a recent budget meeting to hear that kind of approach. Should the project exceed the $87,000, will there still be a commitment by the Heritage Association to fund the overage on that project?
Yeah, if it costs more money, and then it will take us more time to raise the rest of the money. But I promise I won't be back here asking for money. We'll figure out ways to raise the funds.
Okay, thank you, Heather. You know that this meeting is being recorded. And by the way, Mr. Chair, I have every confidence that you will keep your word. Heather, can you tell us just a little bit about the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association for members of council who might not be familiar with what you do?
Yeah, so the Heritage Association in Port Rowan was incorporated in 1989. It's a nonprofit registered charity. And in the last couple of years, we've kind of had a resurgence of new volunteers who have been really active at getting the word out about programs. So we have heritage talks, about four or five a year, and we're getting over 100 people attending those talks. So we're really good at getting the word out, plus we're choosing talks that are really pertinent to the area. People writing books are invited to come talk, or academics are talking, or people with experience. And we keep the content to Long Point and South Walsingham. So I think that the mandate is really important. We also have a Veterans Banner program that we've just started, where we put 22 Veterans Banners in Port Rowan, and next year we're including Port Rowan and St. Williams. And we've been asked to help Delhi and Victoria also have a Veterans Banner program, so we're assisting other heritage groups as well. And then we have a paid membership of over 240 people, which is really great. And we have archives in the basement of the public library in Port Rowan. We run an archives that has a collection of archival material to do with South Walsingham.
Thank you, Heather. And Mr. Chair, just maybe for council's information, the membership of this organization, and I am a member of several other heritage and historical associations, this far exceeds all of the other organizations that I'm aware of. So there's a lot of community and involvement and commitment here. And Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask one more question, and I'll let my colleagues ask some if they like. Heather, right now in what is known as Lions Park in Port Rowan, the exact location of the display is not yet set. How will you determine exactly where it's going to go?
Okay, so my proposal is that I would meet with a representative of Norfolk County, which actually I kind of hope would be Bill Cridland, because he knows the park really well in Port Rowan, and then maybe also a representative of the LPRCA. And we would decide between the picnic pavilion, which exists right now, and the water's edge in a straight line, because actually the LPRCA has a line on on the plan that says you absolutely cannot build in this section, but it's possible to build in this other area. So knowing all of that, I would just like to meet with the, parties really involved and decide what works for the group, kind of. I'm hoping to have it close-ish to the water so that it conceptually makes sense, because a puller would be right adjacent to the water, so we didn't want to be too far from the water. The other thing is, another factor here is that the picnic pavilion is used for the farmers market, and the farmers market people want to be able to back their trucks up to the pavilion. Customers go in the pavilion and the trucks or cars back up. So we're cognizant of being careful about their use of the pavilion as well. So that's my proposal about deciding where exactly it would go.
Thank you very much, Heather. Mr. Chair, I have a few more questions, but I'll let my colleagues go ahead of me.
Okay, next I have Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Chair, and through you to the deputation. That was great. So I'm looking forward to putting some support behind this for you. I just have one question. So I understand it's going to be built on county property, and you're your own group. I understand that. So who owns the structure once it's built?
Yeah. So the proposal that we're coming up with right now is that we would build the structure and give it to Norfolk County. We would still own the artifact, the Becker puller itself, and the stationary engine, but if we give it to Norfolk County, but we promise to look after it for 5 years, including any in the construction. If there's any problem, we should be the one to argue that there's some problem with the concrete, not Norfolk County, who didn't oversee that part. So our proposal right now is that we would pay the costs and oversee building it, and we would give it to Norfolk County.
Okay, thanks, Heather. And so if I could, I see Ryan Natman's on the line there. Ryan, are you around there, guy? Is he?
Yeah, you got me.
So Ryan there, through the chair, is there any kind of substantial, I'm not looking for trouble, I just want to clarify, is there any substantial risk or any kind of, anything that we should be aware of that may come from having this structure there?
Through the chair to Councillor Berry, I think we would just want to make sure that we'd probably want to be involved with the contractor that is doing the project, just in the sense making sure they have proper insurance and WSIB in place when they are building a facility like that. So yeah, the best way we could kind of protect our interests there would just be to make sure that the contractor is properly insured, and yeah, we'd want to do that.
Okay, so just to put a finer point on it, you don't see any unusual risk or any cause for concern if we approve this, do you?
Through the chair to Councillor Berry, no, not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Heather.
Okay, next I have Councillor Vanden Rishi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, thank you very much for the presentation. And Port Rowan is an amazing place and it has lots of history. My question would be, where did you find the actual puller that you're going to refurbish it, I guess, and try to bring it back to life? That first question is, where did you find it?
Well, there's a few other pullers in existence, but this one was at Gravelly Bay. It wasn't used at Gravelly Bay into the present era, so it remained very original. Oh, right. It hasn't been modified very much. The other ones have been modified to put a gasoline engine on top or to change something else about it. So this one is quite original, which is great for us. It was brought from Gravelly Bay to a lot in Port Dover, and weeds all grew up around it. And then it was given to a man outside Port Rowan who is a welder, and then it was given to us. So it's had a kind of a varied history, but we were really happy to have it because of its connection to Port Rowan and Charlie Becker, who invented it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, along the causeway, there are a few nettings that
Seine net fishing operations, yep.
Yeah. Is that, is there any history to that? Is there some old ones there? Or is that something that, I don't think they do fish off the shore anymore. I'm not sure.
Yeah, actually, we've just recently been in contact with the Cronmiller family, and they have one of those fishing grounds right on the causeway, and they haven't fished it for a few years, but they're planning to fish it again this year. So they're keeping up their license to do that because almost for historical reasons. But I'm sure they also would like to catch fish. But so they have a puller machine inside a little shanty there. They have reels for the nets. They bring the net and put the net out and then make a haul, it's called. And so, yeah, that's the last one on the bay.
Yeah, as I recall, I remember the Browns used to have one as well, and I remember getting fish for the ponds when we were on the farm then. So, but anyway, I think it's a great idea, and I would like to support it in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Duthie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief because Councillor Michelle asked my questions, which were around your board and volunteer base. But I just want to tell you, this was a wonderful deputation that was incredibly fascinating and really well delivered, and you have checked all the boxes because you're not asking for money, and you have a wonderful plan. So thank you. I really appreciated this presentation, and I look forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, sorry, Councillor Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I totally agree with Councillor Duthie. Heather, nice job. Really well prepared. Very proud of you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Heather, I think that generally speaking, that some of the questions that Council has also asked, the Heritage Association is prepared to sign an agreement with Norfolk County that will take care of those concerns like insurance and ownership and responsibilities and all of that stuff, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And Heather, just my last question, what would you maybe describe as the overall benefit to the community of this project?
Okay, I think there's a number of benefits to the community. I want to start with the fishermen and their families, because we were already, by asking for photographs or a copy of their licenses or stories that they have, we're really kind of, I think, buoying up the spirit of fishermen families, because it's their history is being celebrated. And so that's been an incredible experience for us to go knocking on doors and raise people's spirits about their own personal history. And because it's such working class history, it's not the kind of history that usually gets talked about. I mean, in Port Rowan area, of course, we have Bacchus Mill, which is a fantastic heritage asset, but that's an elite family that had the ability to do that. So the other benefit, I think, is for people who are new to the area. And Port Rowan has like the villages of Long Point with many people who worked and lived somewhere else and retired there. And actually, every time you drive into Port Rowan, there's people walking from the villages down to the town and down to the park and doing the loop and then walking back out. And I think that this really enhances their experience. It gives them a more complicated understanding of lives lived in Port Rowan. And then I think it helps the whole county, because people are coming to Port Rowan for the day. They come and they go to the antique store and they have a meal and they drive over to the beach and they drive down around that loop in the park. And I think this stops them and they walk over and they get a sense of how the bay makes sense in terms of where it is, why this has been a vital community for so long. So I think it does a number of jobs. You know, it's good for people that live there, it's good for people that were connected to this history, and it's good for people from away.
Heather, thank you very much. And I just want to maybe just review that you have a major fundraiser coming to the Port Rowan Legion on May the 31st. I'm sure that council is putting that in their calendar right now. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And again, thank you very much. And Mr. Chair, I would be prepared to move that this deputation be received as information.
Thank you. I have a seconder, Councillor Huffman. No further questions. Thank you, Heather, and those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have the staff report CAO 25004 Community-Led Initiatives, the Becker Puller Pavilion proposal. And Stephanie Potter, you're going to present that report?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through the Deputy Mayor to Council, before you is a community-led initiatives application from the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association proposing the construction of a new glass pavilion in Port Rowan Lions Park to house a historic Becker Puller artifact. I'll try not to be too redundant after an excellent delegation. If approved by Council, the Heritage Association is proposing raising 100% of the project's capital costs and would manage and design the construction process proposed for spring of 2026. Staff will work with the Heritage Association to ensure the project is built to county specifications and would enter into a municipal involvement agreement that specifies all project requirements. The Heritage Association would also seek approval from the Long Point Region Conservation Authority to locate the pavilion in the floodplain. Upon completion, the pavilion itself would be owned and insured by the county, while the Heritage Association would retain ownership of the Becker Puller artifact. The county would assume responsibility for ongoing operational costs, estimated at approximately $800 annually, and an additional $90 annually for insurance. Staff estimate that the lifespan of the asset would be 25 to 27 years and recommend putting $3,500 in reserve annually to cover the eventual replacement cost. Staff have reviewed the application and are supportive, and the project has garnered significant support in the community. It is an opportunity to showcase a unique piece of our community heritage and is expected to have minimal operational and financial impacts for the county. Thank you for your consideration. Staff are available to answer questions.
Questions from committee? Questions from staff. Are there any staff that wish to ask a question? Seeing none, okay, I need a motion to move the report. Councillor Columbus, seconded by Councillor Michele. And I'll ask the clerk to read the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion is on the screens overhead. The recommendation is that the report regarding the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association Becker Puller Pavilion proposal 3 times fast, be received as information, and the council support in principle the proposal for the installation of the Becker Puller Pavilion in Port Rowan, Lions Park, for a minimum of 5 years, as summarized in the report, pending approval of the following: that Norfolk County review and approve all project standards and specifications, Norfolk County building permit approval, approval by the Long Point Regional Conservation Authority, and execution of a municipal involvement agreement between the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association and Norfolk County, and that council authorized the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement between the Port Rowan South Walsingham Heritage Association for the construction of a Becker Puller Pavilion in Port Rowan Lions Park.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I have my hand up for a question of the clerk.
Go ahead.
For the motion. There is also in the staff report that there's a request by the Heritage Association to waive the building permit fee, and I'm wondering if we should include that.
Motion?
Well, Mr. Chair, we're not allowed to, under a procedure bylaw, do financial considerations at this point, are we? Let me just pull up the procedural bylaw.
Is that the only request, Councilman Shelley?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair. I just know, and I've been reminded by Councillor Van Passen, if we don't do this now, we can't do it later.
Okay, well, we'll look into that. Just give us a second.
Yes, so I do have this. So typically, there isn't a provision that allows for a request for funding, except with members, they can request waiver of fees when staff reports respecting grant funding or the establishment of fees are being considered. So we're not really considering fees at this point, other than they're required to get building permits, so.
Councilman
Mr.
Shelley,
Chair,
maybe.
Just a question to the clerk. The deputation indicated that they were going to seek Trillium grant funding. Would that be part of the grant process that the clerk's referring to?
Well, again, through you, Mr. Chair, it's up to the chair to decide whether the motion's in order or not. It's a little bit of a gray area. There are building permit fees. The report does recommend that they're required to get building permit fees. There are fees associated with building permits. So if council's interpretation is that the request is on the floor for that, then they could consider an amendment to the motion to include the waiver of fees.
Councilman Shelley, if I may, I don't know that it has to be right in the motion. Do you feel it has to be in the motion, or can we just proceed with the understanding that they can approach the building department and the building department will make their decision based on the interpretation of the bylaw, and that is waiving of fees?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that that's going to be allowed at that juncture, but I may have to defer to staff on that question. And I believe also that Councillor Van Passen has something to add.
Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder whether it would be legitimate. We need to enter into a municipal involvement agreement, and as part of that agreement, one of the municipality's responsibility would be to absorb the building permit fees. And that way they're not paying it and we're granting it back, we're just absorbing them in the first place as part of our involvement in the project. Does that meet the criteria of our procedural bylaw, that we direct staff to put that clause in the municipal involvement agreement?
The COO says after careful consideration, that would be an appropriate course of action.
Okay. So if we just direct staff to do that, we don't need it specifically in the motion, and when it comes time to write up that agreement, you just fill it in there.
Yeah, my suggestion, Mr. Chair, through you, is that if you pass the motion that's in front of committee right now, that would be appropriate, and then do a follow-up motion to provide direction to staff to include the waiver of fees within the agreement once drafted. So 2 motions. So the motion's on the floor if you want to call the vote, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the motion is on the floor, I've been advised. Is everybody in favor of that? Those in favor? That's carried.
So now a secondary motion.
Now,
so, Mr. Chair, may I
okay.
make that motion?
Go ahead.
That that staff be directed to include in the municipal involvement agreement that the building permit fees for this project be waived.
Everybody heard the motion? You happy with that?
Need a seconder.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? Sorry, Mr. Councillor Columbus.
I recall reading the Ontario Building Code where it suggested that you could build a structure up to 160 square feet without a permit. Can someone shed some light on that?
Yep, through the chair. So the proposal as it's been reviewed so far looks like it needs a building permit under the Ontario Building Code. Staff don't have the ability to waive fees, so appreciate the consideration as part of the agreement. I think once we have the final specifications for exactly what the structure is going to be, then we'll know exactly what's required under the building code.
So when can you use that Ontario Building Code up to 160 square feet? what would be a sample, or?
Through the chair, so if someone was building like an accessory structure, there was a small like accessory structure under 100 square feet, that would be an example where it wouldn't apply.
It's interesting because the building code says 160 square feet. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Councilor Michele, seconded by Councilor Huffman, correct? We're ready to move ahead with that? All those in favor? And that is carried. Just a comment, I don't think a building permit for this thing is going to cost very much money based on the size. Anyways, we'll move on. Thank you. Okay, our second, I'll give him a minute here if you don't mind. Okay, we're moving on to the Clinton Street parking lot, item 5.2 on our agenda. And we have a deputation by Christine Marshall. And Christine, are you here? Online? We have a no-show, is that? Okay, we'll move on, I guess, and we'll get the next speaker, Mr. Kevin Lakoch. And it's, Kevin, you have the floor. And you are, so I'm clear, is it to deal with the parking lot, but you are a neighbor next door or property next door you're dealing with?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll clarify that right off the bat. It's
Okay.
in my presentation. I'm speaking on behalf of the property owner next door on 24 St. Andrew Street, Joan Meisner. Sorry, is this on? Yes. Yep. So I clarify that. Mr. Chairman, members of council and staff, I'm here to voice concerns regarding the purchase and sale of the Clinton Street parking lot and 25 St. Andrew Street property. I'm speaking here today on behalf of the property owner, Ms. Joan Meisner, who lives at 24 St. Andrew Street, directly across the street from where you are proposing to construct a new public parking lot. I'd like to state for the record that Joan is not going against the future redevelopment of the lands in question, including the possible future condo development on the adjacent former Norfolk Hotel property. It is acknowledged that Port Dover Lake Erie's location continues to make Port Dover a very popular place to live and visit, especially in the summer months. Joan and I think additional new housing, possibly the future condo, and additional public parking in Port Dover is a good thing, while others may think this is a necessary evil. However, Council, we ask that full consideration and good planning measures be undertaken before construction begins on the new proposed parking lot at 25 St. Andrew Street. There are numerous homeowners along St. Andrew Street who will be negatively impacted by the proposed new location of the larger parking lot. The list of anticipated negative impacts on 24 St. Andrew Street and the adjacent neighbors include increased traffic and on-street parking congestion along St. Andrew Street, including vehicles and exiting the St. Andrew Street parking lot. Increased noise volumes from vehicles, individuals, families, visitors making use of the St. Andrew Street parking lot. For example, car doors, car alarms, loud music, people chatter, people just having a good time. There will be increased garbage and litter. It's a larger parking lot. And most concerning, increased nightlight pollution, both from the parking lot pole lighting, security lighting, and from the headlights and taillights of the vehicles that enter and exit the parking lot. Car lights are now going to shine directly on Joan's front door, front porch, and inner front windows. The loss of trees and landscaping has already occurred on this property as the 3 houses are gone next door. Those trees and landscaping provided aesthetics and noise buffering. Hours of operation will impact Jones and other adjacent homeowners' quiet use of their front yards, gardens, porches, and individual driveway access. We ask that council take proactive steps to attempt to address these anticipated negative outcomes by directing staff to work with the developer of the proposed parking lot and identify and include in the design and construction of the St. Andrew Street parking lot site plan control measures and/or current best design practices to reduce the negative impacts the proposed parking lot will have on adjacent homeowners along St. Andrew Street, Port Dover. Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions from committee? Seeing none. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I have a mover to adopt a recommendation to accept the report as information? A mover? Councillor Berry, second by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, next we have staff report CS-25-018, the Clinton Street parking lot proposed sale. And Karen, you have the floor on that.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of committee. This report, CS-25-018, is a follow-up report to CS-25-004, which declared these lands surplus pursuant to our land purchase and sale policy, and is being presented to you to obtain approval of the terms and conditions in the agreements of purchase and sale in regards to an unsolicited proposal the county received from an adjacent property owner for a land exchange, which would involve the county-owned municipal parking lot located on Clinton Street, Port Dover. This report outlines the highlights of the terms and conditions that would be involved in such a land exchange transaction, which would result in the county ending up with a larger and more enhanced municipal parking lot at no additional cost. Staff is seeking approval from council to enter into these agreements of purchase and sale and to proceed with the conveyance of Clinton Street parking lot to the adjacent property owner as part of a land exchange transaction. Thank you, and staff will take any questions that members of committee may have.
Questions from committee. Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Chair. A couple questions for Brandon, please. So, Brandon, can we start with just the traffic, and could you outline what, if anything's been done to look at the impacts that the parking lot may have on traffic increases and how those may or may not be mitigated, and what is the process for, I guess, analyzing traffic impact?
Through the chair, so to start, for any parking lot, that would require a site plan. The lands are within the downtown, they are within the central business district, so site plan control is part of that. And so there is an opportunity as part of the parking lot, if it's needed, to have any traffic impact brief that would be reviewed. And primarily at that point, you're looking at the function of the access points to the parking lot. At this stage, I don't believe there is a traffic study that's been completed.
So okay, so let me ask this another way. What I guess diligence, if you want to call it that, or process or whatever, has staff looked at that, has led us to conclude that these impacts aren't going to be as, aren't going to be extreme enough that the parking lot is not a poor idea?
Through the chair, so I may look to others for any input, but as part of any land exchange and decision, any development of the parking lot for Norfolk would be following the site plan process, and that's where it is looking at lighting. So we have bylaws about lighting, that all lighting has to be contained on the property, not directed adjacent. So through site plan, you can deal with lighting, you can deal with the landscaping, drainage, how the parking lot is configured, the function of it, if there is anything about access points, garbage, etc. So that would follow the site plan process.
Okay, so just to go back a second ago to the deputation, the request was to, forgive me if I don't get the word exactly right there, but to direct staff to include a site plan control with best design practices. Is that something that we're doing?
Through the chair, exactly, that is what we're doing. If there is anything more specific about, I'd say, screening, landscape screening of adjacent properties, that might be, if there is any other additional council direction about it.
Okay, and what, if any, input would residents in this type of situation normally have in this situation?
Through the chair, I can comment from the site plan, the planning perspective, and from that perspective, when dealing with the site plan under the provincial legislation, that's not a public process. That's delegated to staff and then follow certain site plan control bylaw requirements. As it relates to the land itself, I'll let others comment, but we're following the land disposition process policy.
That's really good. I think that's good for now, Brandon. Thank you.
Councillor Van Passen.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I was going to bring this up before we got into the report, but you didn't see my hand, so
sorry.
Maybe we can deal with this report and then bring back a motion, give staff direction how to deal with the site plan. Is that acceptable? So before we get too far away.
We can deal with the report next first.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like a mover of the staff recommendation?
Yeah, we need,
I can
sorry,
do that.
just hang on a sec. We got a change in the number here. I want to make sure we got the right, there's a lot of report numbers here in front of us. Okay. Yes, we need a mover for the report. I need a mover for that report. Okay, Councillor Van der Riche, seconded by Councillor Berry. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we have no sorry, Councillor Van Passen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to the deputation, could I put a motion on to direct staff to investigate any design features for the site plan control that would help mitigate negative impacts to the neighbors?
Okay. Okay, that's a move. You're moving that motion. Seconded by Councillor Berry. Okay, everybody in favor of that? All those in favor? Sorry, go ahead.
Just say whoa, whoa, that was not maybe procedurally polite, but thank you so much. I just didn't want to get missed, so thanks, Chair. So I just wanted to talk to Brandon for another second about the site plan. So just so residents are, if not comfortable, maybe more comfortable, what are some of the things we can do through site plan that would address some of the concerns that the deputation brought forward? And I made a note, and Kevin, if I miss any, please just shout over my shoulder here. But so, of course, the increase in traffic and on-street parking, the noise from doors and chatter and alarms, garbage, the light pollution, and where the lights would shine directly into people's houses. What are some of the things we can do through site plan to mitigate some of those things, just so they're aware of what's coming? Thanks.
Yep, thanks through the chair, and with the council direction for that, the specific number one thing would be looking at privacy fencing, usually wood board-on-board fencing, and that would try and address and deal with any of the headlights and the screening to adjacent properties. The other items are, as I mentioned, lighting as part of our bylaw, so we can deal with the lighting and reviewing a lighting plan. There's also the ability for any landscaping, the garbage, that addresses many of those items. I guess the one that may not be directly addressed with anything about the noise of people closing the doors, etc.
Okay, and just to go back to the initial agreement of the transfer here. So these are things that the final transfer is not in place, let's say, until the parking lot is turnkey. Is this site plan included in that? I'm maybe not asking that the right way. What I'm getting at is this thing won't go forward until all these things have been addressed and finalized, essentially, is what I'm in the same way that the lines and the lights and the pavement and all these other things were required. Are we now in the same boat with the noise and the light canceling measures?
Through the chair, that's my understanding of what's before council, and moving forward with this is not only with the proponent have to do the site plan to address all those matters, but then also constructing it to our satisfaction as well.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't asking it really well. What I'm trying to get at is the residents have some assurance that before we call this a done deal, that these matters will be addressed. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from committee? Do you want that motion read out? Or are you clear on the motion? I have moved by Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Very. Do you want the motion read again? Okay, all right. Ask the clerk to read that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my understanding is the motion was put on the floor to provide direction to staff to look at mitigating factors that are available to it under site plan control to address the concerns that were brought forward by the delegation.
Sorry.
Councillor Very.
Yeah, I nitpick you a little bit, Bill. I don't really want to limit it at the concerns that were brought forward by the deputation today. I'd say up to and including, but any others that maybe he didn't spell out, but we should be covering all of our bases, not just the ones that were brought forward, if you know what I'm saying. Look, I don't want to specify that we've just ticked off the boxes that were brought forward today. If there's other problems that emerge, we should be covering those too without having to be told about them, is what I'm kind of getting at here.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, so it was Councillor Van Passen's motion. I would just offer that staff normally look for all those issues when they're preparing site plan and reviewing site plan. These were specific ones that were to address and assure the deputation today that his concerns would be identified. But if council wants to put the clarification that all concerns as normally are reviewed by staff during site plan control in that motion?
You know, if Councillor Van Passen doesn't mind, that made me feel a little better, just so everyone knows that we're not limited to what those 5 or 6 things were.
Yeah, I think just to the general to help mitigate any possible negative impacts, not specifically the ones they noted today. That's a small change, even though staff normally do that. We want to make sure that maybe we can include some special design features in to help mitigate that. So.
Thank you.
So noted in the motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have Councillor Van Riesche yet to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. And that's all fine and good, but at the end of the day, there's some things that you can't mitigate, so we're saying to the best of our ability is what we're saying. Okay, thank you very much.
No other questions, concerns? I'm going to ask the clerk to read that motion to make it very clear. Okay, I have a mover, Councillor Van Passen, and seconded by Councillor Very, and I'll ask the clerk to read it, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With qualifications, I'm not sure it's going to make it any clearer, but the motion, as I understand it on the floor, moved by Councillor Van Passen and seconded by Councillor Very, is that staff, through the normal site plan process, identify measures to mitigate any concerns, including those that have been specifically mentioned today by our deputation on neighboring properties.
Clear? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're moving on to presentations. We have no presentations today that I'm aware of. Item 7 on our agenda is communications, and we have 6 communications, 7.1 through to 7.6. I don't think I need to read them, as everybody's read them, I'm sure. May I have a motion to receive those as information? Moved by Councillor Van Riesche, seconded by Councillor Michele. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, moving on to staff reports, we have Corporate Services Division. 8.1, County Lands Review, request to declare land surplus, 14 Oaks Boulevard, Victoria, CS-25-016. And Karen, you have the floor again.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of committee. Report CS 25-016 is being presented to you today to obtain council's approval to declare 14 Oaks Boulevard, Victoria surplus to municipal needs, and to direct staff to proceed with the appropriate disposition procedures to sell this property. As this property is one of the lands included in the County Land Review Project, council previously directed staff to proceed to rezone this property from open space to hamlet residential. This process was completed by staff in December 17, 2024. Council passed bylaw 2024-126 to rezone it. To proceed to the next steps for this property, staff is requesting that council declare these lands surplus and authorize the appropriate disposition procedures to sell this property. Should council approve this, staff will work directly with our county-approved brokers to have this property listed on the market. Thank you, and staff will again take any questions that member of committee may have.
I need a mover for that report. Councillor Van Der Riche, seconded by Councillor Berry. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, 8.1.2, summary of bids. And I'll pass that to Heidi Van Dyke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Council. This is the monthly summary of bid awards. There are 2 bids available are being presented today for Council's consideration and approval. Both of them are in the operations division. One is for grass cutting and trimming maintenance, and the other is for HVAC equipment and generator replacements. Council will also see that there is a request for a capital budget amendment in the amount of $14,000. If there are any questions about the procurement process, I would be happy to answer them. If there are any questions about the projects, I will refer them to Mr. Michael Simos.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, questions from committee. See none. I have one question. Why do we have golf carts? I see the golf cart in the disposition of equipment. I believe I saw a golf cart in there. Somebody answer that?
Mr. Chair, through you to members of committee, I am aware that golf carts are used on occasion at Norview Lodge. I am not aware that they're used at any other location in the county, and our Director of Facilities is shaking his head. So we can certainly confirm for council, but it would be my suggestion to council that the golf cart is related to Norview Lodge.
Did the clubs go with it? No, thanks. It's fine. Thanks. Any questions from committee? Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I was quite concerned that we only received, I think it was $160,000 for 54 items. And I wondered if there's any way possible that we could do better.
Good point.
Point of order, I think that's the next issue on the agenda. We're still on the summary bid awards, and then the memo is the summary of all the equipment sold.
Okay, I thought I saw golf carts on there.
Yeah, that's on the memo.
Oh, it's on the
Next
other one. Okay, I thought. Sorry.
Okay, I thought, I'm sorry, I'm just reading off the script here, so. Okay.
Happy to move the staff recommendation for CS 25009. Deal with the summary of bid awards.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Duthie. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Okay, we're on to asset disposal statistics, I guess, for 2024. And Ryan, is he here? Okay, Ryan, you got the floor.
Thank you. So this report, this is the asset disposal report. It's an annual memo to council that provides a summary of county assets that are disposed of once they're no longer required by county departments. These assets are auctioned through the government surplus auction GovDeals, and this is facilitated by the Corporate Services Generalist. In 2024, the county sold 54 items through the GovDeals site, which resulted in revenue of $116,701.24. Staff have also included a list of all 2024 sold assets as an attachment to the report for information purposes. And with that, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Duthie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, there are some really good deals on here, and I realize that's the title of the site, but do they do any, is there any advertising for it? Is there any, I mean, you can buy a truck on here for a few $100s, so I'm just curious. I realize it's a bidding sort of thing, so you take what you get once you put it there, but more people should know about it so we can make more money.
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Duthie, so they do market the items on their site and promote them, and my understanding is they have over 1 million buyers across their marketplace that they are marketing these items to, and it's a bidding process, so the price that they sell for is ultimately determined on what people are willing to pay for them. But my understanding is that they're marketed quite well to the buyers that they have available to them.
Councillor Columbus.
Well, I put my question earlier, but it was the wrong time. So I am concerned about the $116,000 for 54 items. As Councillor Duthie mentioned, there's some pretty low-cost items here. And I just wonder whether there's any other way, what other municipalities are doing other than this particular process to try to get more dollars for some of our used equipment.
Anybody wants to try and answer that question?
Mr. Chair, I can take that question through you to Councillor Columbus. Certainly, we can survey our neighbors and see what other municipalities are doing. I think that this is a process that we've used for a number of years here at Norfolk County, and we also in looking at what else we could do or what else we might do, we would also need to consider the level of resources that we would have to put into that type of exercise. I think we also need to look at the condition of the items that we're selling. So, when you see the year of the asset, the type of the asset, the condition of it, our assets, when we sell them, we keep them as long as we possibly can, and we use them as long as we possibly can to get as much of a useful life out of them as we can. And so sometimes the conditions of the asset that we're selling are not the same as the condition of a truck or a golf cart or of something else that you might see out in the open market, and that certainly impacts the price.
Yes, I would appreciate it if you could look into it. Perhaps some other municipalities are doing something a little different, perhaps getting more dollars than we are. Thanks.
Any other questions from committee? I have one. The way I understood the 116,000, correct me if I'm wrong, 16,000 of it was their fee. Am I correct on that? We received about 100,000. The 16 was roughly their fee, if I'm correct.
To the chair, the 116,000 is the net amount that we would receive after their fee is applied. I do believe there is an internal finance fee that is applied that perhaps Amy can speak to as well.
Through the chair, so what we net as revenue at the end of the day is a little bit different than the gross revenue from the site because there is occasionally a loss on disposal of an asset. So for accounting purposes, if we haven't fully depreciated the asset that is being sold, then whatever we have left on the books would be netted against the sale price, though that's usually minor. And as Ms. Van Dyke pointed out, that we utilize these assets, very heavily, but there is occasionally a loss on disposal that is realized that can reduce the amount of revenue that we record from an accounting perspective.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit confused. Like, we received 116,000, and maybe I misread the report, but Gov Deals, is it called? I thought in that report it said they received $16,000. No, am I wrong on that?
Through the chair, I apologize if we may have worded our comments a little bit of a confusing manner in this one. The price noted in the attachment was received from Gov Deals, but then what we record is netted against any net book value that we still have remaining. So the golf cart's a good example. Let's just, and I don't know this off the top of my head, I'm making up an example. Let's say that we had only depreciated it 90% of its value. So we were still carrying 10% of that value in our books. So we have to expense that to write off the asset when we dispose of it. So there's a loss that we take on disposal of the assets that aren't fully depreciated, and that's the difference between the 116 and the amount in the finance comments, which I think is 90-something thousand. I apologize, I don't have the number in front of me.
So that wasn't their fee, you're saying?
Correct. The
Okay.
revenue noted in the attachment was already net of their fee.
Okay, and the other question, that all these items stay in our yard until they are purchased, is that correct?
Yeah, to the chair, that is correct. So the items are sold as is, where is. So they stay where they are until they're picked up by the purchaser.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on that issue? Seeing none, I guess I need a motion to move that report. Recommendation, asset disposal statistics 2024 be received as information. We need a mover. Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. All those in favor? And that is carried. Before we get into the next one, we're going to take 10 minutes, okay? Thank you.
Times in life, such as a marriage or business license, or a dog tag for your new companion. And the unique geographic features in Norfolk County, from farmland and forests to lakes and wetlands, means we also provide specialized services ranging from drainage applications to tree inspections. Wondering how to contact Norfolk County? Start with Service Norfolk. Our friendly team of agents is here to help. Reach us by phone at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk from 8:30 to 4:30 Monday to Friday. Calling about an issue after hours? No problem. We have you covered. Prefer online? Email askus@norfolkcounty.ca anytime or use our customer service portal at service.norfolkcounty.ca and get a reply right to your email inbox. Want to visit us in person? Come to one of our friendly customer service counters in Simcoe, Monday to Friday, or Delhi, Tuesday to Thursday. Service Norfolk, connecting you to Norfolk County services.
Hey Norfolk County, my name is Anna and I'm here to share some water safety tips to keep you and your family safe around the water. Knowing how to swim is a life skill and an essential part of staying safe and having fun. Swimming lessons are the best way to learn essential swim survival skills to recover from a fall into deep water. Think you're too old for lessons? There are programs designed for teens and adults as well. With so many lakes and rivers, Canadians of all ages are avid boaters. Always wear a life jacket, it could save your life. Never swim alone, regardless of age and skill level. Always swim with a buddy. A buddy can throw you a buoyant aid if you get into trouble. When possible, wade into unknown waters to prevent injury. Backyard pools are a great place to make family memories. But remember, if you are not within arm's reach of your child in and around the water, then you've gone too far. Drowning can occur in as little as 10 seconds and it is silent. Every drowning death is preventable. Take time to educate yourself and those around you to ensure you're staying safe and having fun around the water. For more information, visit norfolkcounty.ca/watersafety.
Soon after, members of council and I took our seats right here in council chambers last November, we began to plan the direction we'd like to see Norfolk County take over the next 4 years and beyond. A direction that builds on our strengths and sets a strong foundation in place for future generations. We looked outward to the people of Norfolk for input. We listened to you, the valued members of our community, from our sandy lake shores, our vibrant downtowns, our picturesque countryside, and our bountiful farmland. We engaged leaders from local businesses and community agencies. We gathered ideas from our team across the county. Based on what we've heard, we created Our Future Norfolk, a set of priorities that focuses on 5 key areas: empowering Norfolk, building Norfolk, connecting Norfolk, serving Norfolk, and sustaining Norfolk. These priorities, along with the initiatives and activities that drive them, will guide council and staff as we work together to serve you and all of the members of our community over the next 4 years. On behalf of Norfolk County Council and staff, we invite you to check out our website at norfolkcounty.ca/Our Future Norfolk and return frequently to learn more about our path to a vibrant and strong future for all of us, now and in the years to come.
Hi, I am Mohammed from Norfolk County Planning Department. We get a lot of questions at the Planning Department, and this video series will answer some of those. The first big question is, what is the official plan? Norfolk County's official plan describes Council's policy on how lands in our community should be used, managed, and developed. It is prepared with community input and helps to ensure the future planning and development will meet the specific needs of our community. An official plan includes issues such as where new housing, industry, offices, and shops will be located, and what services like roads, water mains, sewers, parks, and schools will be needed. It also defines when and in what order our community will grow and outlines community improvement initiatives. The official plan is approved by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in Ontario. The current official plan was adopted in 2016 with a goal to manage the growth of this county for the next 20 years. Residents can see Norfolk County official plan on our website at norfolkcounty.ca/official plan. What is a secondary plan? A secondary plan is a more detailed policy document embedded within the official plan to address the growth and development issues unique to a specific area of the county. For example, the lakeshore area in Norfolk County or a particular urban area with defined characteristics can be a secondary plan. As I mentioned, it is a more detailed policy document. It provides directions on where future development will occur with a guideline on density, road access, infrastructure services, different building types, building heights, or even design guidelines that are compatible to that specific area. In Norfolk County, there is only one secondary plan at this moment, which is the Lakeshore Special Policy Area Secondary Plan. The Port Dover Secondary Plan would be the second plan the county is working on at this moment. What does the land use designation of a property mean? Norfolk County's official plan also identifies how individual land or a group of lands will be used, and this is done by the land use designation. In Norfolk County, a lot of lands have been designated as agricultural. Some areas have been designated as hazard lands because of their specific natural features. An example would be the natural creeks, streams, rivers, or shoreline areas. Some lands have been designated as residential, commercial, or industrial to efficiently manage the growth of specific land use. Each land designation has rules about the kind of development allowed. The official plan uses growth management data to identify where and how much growth will occur in the next 20 years. In accordance with the provincial requirement, Norfolk County reviews and updates these growth areas every 5 years. What is the process of changing an official plan designation? A landowner can request to change the designation of the land through an official plan amendment application. This change requires a public hearing meeting and council's decision. A landowner needs to consult with a planner to get more information about this process and to identify the required documents they must submit. Any official plan amendment needs to conform to the provincial policy statement, which is a planning policy document that affects all municipalities across Ontario. This provincial policy statement is currently under review and may change in the future. To learn more about planning in Norfolk County, visit our website at norfolkcounty.ca/planning or contact the planning team at 519-426-5870 or 226 Norfolk, extension 1842, or email planning@norfolkcounty.ca. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Jacob, and I'm here to take you behind the scenes on a capital project in Norfolk County. We begin planning capital projects by analyzing our infrastructure needs related to roads, water mains, storm and sanitary sewers, as well as bridges. We assess their overall condition, age, and servicing requirements. This provides a solid foundation to ensure Norfolk has the hard infrastructure for current and future needs. Once a project is determined and approved by Council, we retain an engineer to complete the design. During this stage, we engage the public through public information centers or postings on the county website to inform them of the upcoming project and provide an opportunity to share feedback. After the design is completed and all approvals are in place, we hire a contractor through a public bidding process. During the construction phase, we track progress, budget, and continue to engage with the public. We also work with other departments to ensure the overall success of the project. Once complete, we report and track any warranty issues for 2 years. We measure a project's success by its ability to enhance infrastructure and positively impact residents. As a Norfolk County employee, I enjoy building the community that has given me so much. Thank you for taking the time to join me on this behind-the-scenes tour.
We all have the right to feel safe at work, when spending time with friends and family, when participating in activities or attending a public meeting or event. Norfolk County is committed to ensuring our spaces and workplaces are safe. Our Respect and Responsibility policy outlines the code of conduct for employees, patrons, contractors, volunteers, coaches, and spectators. This code of conduct also applies to phone calls, emails, and virtual and social media platforms. We all play a part in fostering a respectful and safe environment. Inappropriate behaviors such as swearing, name-calling, verbal and physical threats, physical violence, harassment, and
Okay, folks, we're ready to roll here. We're on 8.1.4, Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund application CS-24-183. And Heidi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to committee. The purpose of this report is to bring to Council's attention a funding opportunity through the Canada Housing and Infrastructure Fund and to seek direction on an application. This is federal housing infrastructure funding. It's meant to support the development of infrastructure that will support additional housing development and intensification. Finance staff have worked with EIS staff to identify a potential project, which is the Port Dover Northwest Booster Station, which is not currently in the approved capital budget as a standalone project, but it is estimated to cost up to $10 million. This funding is 40% funding from the federal government. Similar to other housing related funding from the federal government, there is a requirement for the 4 units as of right. Council has discussed this before with other housing related applications such as the Housing Accelerator Fund. Similar to that application, in order to be eligible for this funding, Council needs to commit to adopting 4 units as of right in all residential zones. There is not an opportunity to request an exemption, but there is some opportunity to talk about some exceptions. As with the previous funding application in this report, planning staff have been consulted and have included for Council's information their thoughts about the need to do some additional research on this, to do some studies, to work with our colleagues in EIS around infrastructure and servicing. And so we are here today to let Council know about this funding opportunity, to let Council know that there is a project that we can apply for, and to seek Council's direction related to the application and to the 4 units as of right zoning. The report does indicate that if Council is to proceed with the application, a zoning bylaw amendment would be initiated with the required studies to propose a minimum of 4 dwelling units in all urban area residential zones, and that an associated infrastructure review would be undertaken. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'll look to my SLT and finance colleagues to assist with answers.
Okay, questions from committee? Councillor Van Passen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We discussed this once before and we asked for an exemption, but it is a requirement, the 4 units as a right, in order to be eligible for this funding. But if we were to implement that, that doesn't automatically make every property eligible to build 4 units. There's still the zoning bylaw, isn't there, that would require certain setbacks. It would require front yards, side yards, lot coverage, access, is there enough water sewer on that street? So is there enough cushion in the zoning bylaw that people don't get the impression that every lot in every urban area residential zone is automatically able to put in 4 residential units? So I don't know if Brandon wants to tackle that one, or where we would go from here.
Through the chair, yes, we did discuss this previously with previous grant submissions and some consideration of what the implications would be for Norfolk with our existing neighborhoods and any new development as well. So I think the answer to the question is directly, I guess, is maybe. Planning, partly, if there's direction to do this, planning would review what is the appropriate lot width, lot area, heights, building setbacks, parking, and other provisions for a 4-plex. What is the extent or the implications in Norfolk's urban areas as to how far this could be? How many lots could this be conducive to? The other implication would be about, okay, when you get into fourplex, then we're into site plan. So are we going to be looking at all sorts of new site plan and process, and what are the implications of that, or is there a streamlined way? Are there any design guidelines that might help if you're having impact on existing character of a neighborhood? And the other part of it that we pointed out in the report as well is we'd want to look at the infrastructure as well to make sure. So if we do go down the process of amending the zoning to allow 4 units as of right within the zones, that anyone could do that, then we're looking at, you're right, there are some lots that would allow it based on they meet the zoning setbacks of whatever is established or currently is. And then anyone else would have to go through an application. So it might be committee of adjustment at the time to vary your lot width or lot area or your setbacks or your building height, or a rezoning. But that's basically what we're saying, is we would review all that and bring a recommendation forward, if that's the direction.
Other questions from committee? I have a couple, if I may. This report, I looked at, sorry if I may, on page 4.7 of the report. There's a paragraph, notwithstanding. It starts off, and I won't read the whole paragraph, but after I read that paragraph, I did have some concerns, like, and then if you go down to page 5 of 7, financial services comments, if you read them, we're talking 40% funding, correct, on possibly 10 million, if that's what we're looking at. But am I reading it right that says at a later point there'll be 73% funding on the remaining 5 million that the province or the feds may put out? I guess my question is, if we did not proceed with this application now, and my concern is that we're forcing, well, I'll ask Andrew a question after this, but are we still eligible for the 73% funding, Heidi? Is that a fair question?
So, Mr. Chair, if I could refer that question to Ms. Fanning. We are still waiting for all of the program guidelines for the second funding stream, because that is contingent upon a bilateral agreement between the federal government and the province. And just before I refer it over, if Ms. Fanning has any other comments, the comments about the notwithstanding, that has to do with one of the eligibility criterion for a freeze and development charges. That does not apply to Norfolk County. So staff were sharing that information with council for your information, but it does, we don't apply, that does not apply to us because of our size.
Thank you, and through the chair. So yes, we would be eligible if the latter stream, if and when it becomes available, but we would be putting forward likely a much larger project based on the size of that stream and what it's in total expected to be for the 73% share. So yes, we would definitely want to apply with that once we have all of the guidelines, and we'd be looking to put forward a much larger project in that stream. So it wouldn't be the same project, it would be something different that we'd look to apply for that stream for.
But well, I guess we're looking at 4 units still, but it could be at 73% funding for whatever project we put out. Is that?
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, it's likely. We suspect that anything that comes forward, or a great many of them, will include 4 units as of right now. That's kind of what we're seeing, or what we had been seeing with the federal government that was in place. That seemed to be something that they were putting on grant applications coming forward. If that changes, would that, I can't speculate on what we may or may not see, but based on what we know right now, we will be applying for the 73% funded program when it's available, but not for this project. So it wouldn't change the 60-40 split on this project that council's considering today. It would be a different larger project depending on the guidelines of that program, making sure that it would fit within those parameters once we know more.
Okay, and my question to Brandon would be, Brandon, in the report, I think you say that the proper way would be to study the 4 units in the R1 zone? Am I understanding that correct?
To the chair, that would be the proper thing to do, and we talked about that last time, that we should
Right.
do some kind of review, and any county-initiated zoning amendment needs a public process.
Okay. And my other question would be to Andrew. Andrew, can you just clarify what you see as possible problems if we go to the 4 units in some of the residential areas? So
Yeah, through the chair, it certainly prevents some challenges from a servicing perspective for us. And, not every individual property is going to convert to 4 units as of right, or put 4 units on their parcels. But it does put a big demand on our system. More connections you add, the increase it has on water volumes and decrease in pressure for our residents. So it is something that we are cautious of, but I don't expect it to explode and have, every property starting to move down that direction. But it is something we'll be cautious of. Especially as newer developments come forward, they want smaller frontages that create smaller corridors for servicing. You compound all those things, and it is a challenge from a service perspective.
And that goes for all the other amenities, parking, garbage collection. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on. Nothing? Can I have a, well, do you want to read that motion? I'll have the clerk read that motion so we're clear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that staff report CS-24-183 Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund application be received as information, and that council provide staff direction on how to integrate 4 units as of right commitments into application documents, and that the mayor and or deputy mayor send a letter to the federal minister of housing, infrastructure and communities regarding the blanket 4 units as of right zoning provision creating challenges in large rural municipalities, and that council endorse the Port Dover Northwest Booster Station as an eligible project and direct staff to submit an application for funding under the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund's direct delivery stream. And further, that if Norfolk County is to proceed with an application, that a zoning bylaw amendment be initiated to propose a minimum of 4 dwelling units in all urban area residential zones, and that an associated infrastructure review be undertaken to be accommodated within the existing allocation in the final 2025 levy operating budget.
Everybody's clear on the motion? Sorry, Councillor. You want to move it? Yeah. Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Shelley. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 8.6 on my agenda is the Office of Chief Administrator. It's the proposed new green space park in Waterford, CAO-25-008. You have the floor, Al.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to committee. The developer of Villages of Waterford has approached Norfolk County with the intent and interest of conveying approximately 2.2 acres of land to Norfolk County. The developer will propose the following, or has proposed the following, to convey the 2.2 acres of land to Norfolk County at no cost to the county. The developer will also build and fully pay for the following, fully at their expense, meeting all Norfolk County specifications, and agrees to pay for all the operating costs for this season of 2025. They propose that they would build and fully pay for a play structure, some metal benches, some picnic tables, and some grading and seating of the areas in need of restoration on the proposed parcel. And they would also be providing some drainage on the parcel as well. From a financial perspective, no cost to the county this year. The developer would pay for the construction and all the costs associated with building the green space and park for the community in Waterford. And from a financial perspective, what we would do if county council provides the direction for us to proceed with an agreement with the developer is we would make the appropriate provisions in the 2026 budget to ensure that we have operating costs, which would be minimal in terms of cutting the grass. It's pretty passive use of the park, and we would start putting money in a reserve on an annual basis to replace the benches, the tables, and the play structure as required at the end of their expected life for the assets. And with that, Mr. Chair, we are seeking some council direction on whether you'd like to proceed.
Going to say that I would like to move the staff motion.
That report CAO-25-008 be received, and that council direct staff to finalize the necessary legal agreement with the current landowner at no cost to Norfolk County, and that council direct staff to include the proposed new green space/park in Waterford in the 2026 levy budget, and further that council direct staff to finalize all necessary financial provisions required to maintain the green space/park annually and to make the necessary annual contributions into the appropriate capital reserves to replace elements of the green space/park as when required. Okay, I have moved by Kim, I got that. Seconded by Councillor Duthie. All those, question or?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One little concern about, there is a portion of that that's the archaeological site, and it's been discussed with New Credit, I think, already. Is it possible even to do a bit more with them or something that, put up a plaque or something to identify that? Because I do have some concerns in the future what could happen or not happen, but I think a little bit more involvement with them right from the beginning might be a good way to deal with it all for the future. So,
through you, Mr. Chair, staff did have a couple of meetings already with Mississaugas of the Credit, and they have specifically requested that there be no plaque there. They were afraid that that might invite some trouble and some different things, and so they are fully in support of the recommendation on this report. We've shared it with them, and they like the idea of a passive space. We will make sure that at no point in time in the future where anything to do with that park would be limited to the space that's been identified, and we'll put that all in the agreement of purchase and sale, and we'll have it so that the limitations of that park would be the play structure and the benches and the picnic tables. The balance of the space would be just green grass, and they're quite happy with it just being grass as long as it's manicured, but they do not want any plaque or any special designation there.
okay, thank you, because there's nothing wrong with green grass that little kids can run barefoot through, right? So,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I could just indulge for 1 minute, I just wanted to say that all council members received this handwritten letter. And I just want to take a moment to read it out loud because it's important. And it says, "Dear council members, my name is Lucy. I am 7 years old. I am a resident of the villages of Waterford. I am writing to you today in hopes that a decision to build a park in my neighborhood gets approved. A park would be a great addition to my neighborhood because it would be a place I could be with my younger sisters and can walk there safely and not have to worry. And then worry about crossing a highway with no crosswalk in sight. I look forward to your decision in favor of this park so that me and all my neighbors can gather and make memories. Thank you, Lucy." And then Lucy included a drawing to go with her letter. And I just want to say that it's very important to know that you're never too young to engage with council business. So thank you, Lucy.
Okay, no further questions. I had the motion from Councillor Huffman and Councillor Duthie. I've read the motion. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next, we have 8.6.3, Mayor Leave of Absence, CAO Report -25-020, and the clerk will present that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's an information report for council to refresh council on the current leave and also to help educate the community on the mayor's leave of absence and the implications on council. I'd be happy to answer any questions if the committee has any.
Councillor Huffman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brenton. My question is, just in terms of transparency purposes, at our next council meeting on February the 25th, I believe, we will be receiving a report from staff in regards to dealing with this situation and others that may arise in the future. That is correct, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no further questions. We need a mover for that report. Councillor, Councillor Michele, and a seconder? Councillor Columbus. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, next we have 8.6.4 Cannabis Enforcement Final Report, CAO-25-013, and I see Mr. Milson. Is he here? There he is. Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, and to members of committee. Staff report CAO 25-13 offers council a high-level overview of cannabis investigations in Norfolk County from their inception in 2018 through 2024. In 2018, Norfolk County became one of over 400 municipalities to opt in and permit the legal cultivation and processing of cannabis. In doing so, the county accepted modest one-time funding from the Ontario Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund to assist with managing cannabis enforcement. While there were a variety of enforcement models across participating municipalities, Norfolk settled on two mechanisms: zoning restrictions and a requirement that prospective growers consult with planning before operating. One bylaw team member was then reassigned to full-time cannabis enforcement duties, eventually investigating 130 suspected illegal cannabis cultivation sites across the county. Of these 130 locations, fully 66% were found not to be producing cannabis. Although requiring extensive time and resources to prove, this was a positive outcome for the community in reducing the scope of the issue and the investigation time required. Conversely, a total of 40 properties were found to be producing cannabis in violation of zoning regulations and were charged, with 82 property owners facing a total of 166 provincial offenses charges. And out of those, 4 properties chose to continue growing after being charged and were subsequently charged again with higher fines levied upon conviction. Bylaws worked diligently with our prosecutors to achieve a 98% conviction rate, with 33 court orders issued not to continue cannabis production and over $800,000 in fines levied, ranging from $1,000 to $120,000 each. Bylaw investigations alone have resulted in over 350,000 cannabis plants being taken out of production here, while bylaw assistance leading to another 80,000 plants being destroyed by the OPP in their own investigations. The total number of plants taken out of production locally represents an estimated street value of over $430 million, the bulk of it suspected to be feeding organized crime activity. Bylaw officers have worked with Health Canada on suggested changes to the Cannabis Act, networked with our AMO partners, consulted at planning meetings, presented to both Council and the Police Services Board, and have worked alongside our internal partners in fire, building, and wastewater to hold growers accountable. I'd especially like to acknowledge the assistance provided by the Norfolk County OPP Community Street Crimes Unit, excuse me, over the last 5 years. These officers, who I know are out constantly dealing with hard drug issues and arrests in our community, always went above and beyond to assist the county in our investigations and included us in their investigations where appropriate. Finally, I'd like to commend Bylaw Officer Ron DeBath for his outstanding work as our cannabis investigator. Ron worked tirelessly at all hours and on all days of the week, gathering the evidence he needed to rule in or rule out suspected cannabis sites. He handled many investigations at the same time, completing each one to the highest standard, all on his own. Officer DeBath's evidence in our larger investigations was of such high quality that he never had a search warrant turned down, resulting in our ability to uncover many large-scale illegal cannabis cultivation sites. In the fall of 2024, Norfolk County concluded the last of its cannabis investigations and court matters. Going forward, bylaw will address succession planning needs by cross-training all officers to deal with any further reports of illegal cannabis in Norfolk County. And subject to any questions the council may have, that's the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Brunton. I don't have a question. I just have immense thanks to you and to your staff. It's been a long 6 years. I know you haven't been around for that whole time, but it became quite intense at times and heated, and it was stressful for a lot of people during different junctures of this project. So I am very pleased to see that we have come out on the positive side, and that you and your team, Jim, have done a fantastic job. So thank you very much for everything.
Councillor Duthie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, Mr. Wilson, thank you as well for the work of yourself and your team, and Officer DeBath as well. Certainly appreciate that. I wonder, you touched a little bit on sort of the going forward, and I wonder if maybe you can just share a little bit more. I guess I don't want us to think that we're just done, and I don't want the community to think that we're just done. You know, you're going to love that I'm going to say this again, but at 11:55 today, I'm driving down the Queensway and I can still smell it. And I want to go, why can I still smell it? So what comes next?
Through the chair, thank you very much, Councillor. What I've been able to say is that any reports of illegal cannabis activity have ceased. And so that doesn't mean it doesn't exist in our community. I think anything where profit motivation is present, you're going to find criminal activity. And in our case, it would be overgrowing, or that leads to the odor, that leads to us paying attention to that. Having said that, there are legal cannabis operations in our community. 10 licensed by Health Canada. And there are a number of other designated growers that may be growing legally, and they just haven't drawn attention to themselves yet, I guess. That's probably the better way to put it. In that everyone who wants to grow cannabis has to meet with planning and go through the site plan process. And the only ones that have done that have been the licensed producers, the ones that are sort of publicly traded companies that Health Canada inspects and is regularly involved with. So because we haven't had any designated growers ever come to planning, we assume that we've got most, if not all of them, right now. There will be the occasional odor issue emanating from legal plants, legal operations. We don't, in our zoning bylaw, have a zero odor limitation. It's to have an effective means of control, but it really can't ever be zero, because doors open and transports come and go and things like that to move product. So any report that we get, we do investigate, and we'll continue to investigate going forward. And I'm excited to have Ron, before he leaves the county, be able to cross-train our other officers to the same, hopefully the same standard and with the same tools to use. So I'm quite confident that if we have any further reports that we can action on, we'll be able to handle them right away. Whereas starting out with, I think when I came here 5 years ago, it was over 60 and ended up at 130. It took quite some time to do. So I think we'll be well positioned to tackle this if we have any further reports. Hopefully that answers your question, sir.
Councillor Columbus.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I have one more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This one's for finance staff. So I appreciate the work on this. It looks like we've got some of the outstanding cannabis-related fine money in. Do we have, and it looks like, again, we're taking some enhanced collection methods to get the rest of that. Do we have any sense of what our likelihood is of actually getting that money in? Have we seen best practices in other municipalities, et cetera?
Through the chair to the councillor, so yes, as you've noted, we're continuing to look, and we are working with neighboring POA offices as well to see what our neighbors are doing and sharing best practices that way, and we do continue to look at that. A lot of these organizations operated under a numbered company, so that makes it a little bit more difficult in terms of collection efforts that we're able to employ, but we are looking at it, and we do hope to continue where we can with our enhanced efforts to do a little bit better.
Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brunton. And just a comment, with all the grow operations that we've had in the county, legal or illegal, I recall one time we were labeled as the cannabis capital of Canada. I read it in the press once. So when I read this report, I actually picked up the phone and called Ron DeBath and thanked him for his service, because he truly did a remarkable job. I know I had tipped him off many times in the past as to what I thought was going on, and I really appreciate all the work that you did on this, Jim, and your control of this product. Thank you.
Councillor Michelle, I have you next here.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brunton. I just want to also commend Mr. Milson and Mr. DeBath and all the bylaw staff for the great job they did here. Kind of going back, as Councillor Huffman mentioned a minute ago, that 6 years ago we had these chambers packed with people and all their complaints about all of the cannabis related problems, and it's really, really gratifying to see this again, not come to a total conclusion, as Mr. Milson said, but certainly now within some reasonable control.
Councillor Van Passen.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just want to follow up a bit more on Councillor Duthie's question. Like, I'm still confused how, we can hire good people, very meticulous, every detail is looked after. We go to court with all the facts and all the information. The court orders payment of fines of over $800,000, and we're able to collect $220,000 of that. What do we need to do, or what permission do we need from the federal government or the provincial government to be able to collect court-ordered fines 100% of the time, all the time? Like, who do we have to rattle the chain on?
I'll certainly start, and then I don't know, Mr. Milson, if you want to chime in as well, I'd welcome that. So part of the problem is that a numbered company will just walk away from a property. So our option then is to tax roll it, but they've walked away and they don't care, and it's a numbered company, so we don't have an actual owner to attach it to, which makes our collection efforts a little bit more difficult. We do have other they're not all numbered companies. We do have other property owners that we're looking at investigating what collection efforts that we do have, but we are limited in terms of what we can collect. And I know that it was a delegation at Roma as well, was speaking with someone and looking at collection efforts and what more can be done. And it is all POA courts across the province that are seeking collection efforts. And we know that our Ontario Municipal Property Tax and Revenue Association is sending letters We do know that the Municipal Court Managers Association, in conjunction with AMO, is presenting some information to the Solicitor General's office as well to look at enhanced collection efforts. So I do want to stress that it's not just Norfolk County, and there are some lobbying efforts in place to give us some additional tools to look at. And our new policy allows us to use some tools that we weren't using in the past. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do some, and that efforts with the province will unlock some more for us. So hopefully those are in the works, and that will help as well. And then, I don't know, Mr. Milson, if you want to add on, I'd invite you as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair, there's a couple of quick things, I guess. The one of the last pieces of this new policy involves civil action, which I understand is being contemplated. It's usually the last resort after collection agencies and letters and contacting. So I believe that that's certainly an option for some of the POA issues that we've been dealing with, where significant fines have been levied and unpaid. The other piece is that even though numbered companies exist, there's always a principle associated with it as far as ownership is concerned, and it is within our ability to determine who that is. So I think we'll be able to chase some of this down. It may take some time. When people just don't want to pay, they just don't want to pay. So then it becomes a cat and mouse game of trying to find out where they are. And in some of these cases, we know there's certainly absentee ownership from the GTA, and not all of these folks have been in business in Canada. They've been in business all over the world. So it creates some challenges there for sure. But in talking with collections people, I think the civil action piece is at least being contemplated. So.
If I could follow up, like this part I don't understand. A marijuana grow up, you actually need real estate to grow that on. And does it take a civil action to seize the property? And then, or can we just attach it to the tax bill and then seize it through the tax policy? Or is it better just to, if you didn't get your fine, file a complaint in court and seize the property, because there has to be property, otherwise they wouldn't be growing marijuana, right?
Through the chair, that's correct. So we do have the option of being able to tax roll POA fines only where the person fined is the sole owner of the property. If there's any other owners attached to the property, then that collection process no longer works. And so that's certainly something that we're investigating where possible. And then if that fails, we have collection agency rosters that we use. And if that fails, certainly civil action is our next step. And that is something that we're starting to utilize.
I have Councillor Van den Rieschie next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I wanted to follow up on that question. So obviously you can't put a lien against the property, it's especially if there's more than one owner on the property. That would be difficult to do. Okay, so that answers one thing. Jim, I have a further question. In our county, do we have a lot of people that are growing outside, like field crops? Is there a lot? Do you have a note? I read it, and forgive me, I'm not well and I can't read.
Through the chair, we haven't investigated many of those. There are a few out there. They have to be licensed for an outdoor grow through Health Canada.
Right.
And so if they're not, then it becomes a policing issue under the Cannabis Act and not a bylaw issue. The only time it would come to our attention is if there's odor type issues, as in most of these investigations, to be honest with you. But we've only encountered, I think, a couple that have been both outdoor and indoor, and to my recollection, they've been licensed by Health Canada.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions from committee? I just wanted to make one comment. When I was at Roma, I sat in on the POA seminar, if I could call it that, and I found it very interesting how many, I think I sent all that information out to council on how many are in the same boat as we are, if not worse. But we're considered small potatoes, the way I understand it, compared to some municipalities. And But the problem really has to be addressed by the province. That's the way it boiled down to at the question and answer period. So anyways, for what it's worth, we'll move on here, but I don't have a motion for Jim's report. And thank you, Jim. Well done. Could I have a mover? Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Van den Riese. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're on to 8.6.4, mobile self-contained breathing apparatus, tank fill unit project acceleration CAO-25-019. And Mr. Menenzi, our Chief Executive Officer. Will you introduce the report, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to committee on behalf of our fire chief who's away today on county business. Good news report to end our session today. Norfolk County Fire Department was seeking to acquire a mobile self-contained breathing apparatus cylinder filling trailer capable of servicing all breathing air cylinders used by its 11 fire stations during emergency response and training exercises. $140,000 was included in the approved 10-year capital forecast for 2026. The county did make an application and was successful in receiving $90,000 in a grant to help offset the costs. So what the report is seeking is an amendment to move the capital project from 2026 to 2025 and utilizing the $90,000 cost, $90,000 grant that we're receiving to offset the cost. So it would be roughly about $60,000 cost to the county and $90,000 borne by the grant that we're receiving, and assistance to help all of our heroes and first responders when they are in need of some air responding to a fire suppression exercise, to have clean air in their cylinders and be able to refill on site. So a good news story, but certainly here to answer any questions that council may have.
Questions from committee? Councillor Van den Riese?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment. Way to go. Like, it is a good news story. And we should take advantage of any of those dollars we can get. So thank you staff for doing all that work. Thank you.
Councillor Huffman, did I see your name? No, I'm sorry. Okay, seeing no more questions, I need a mover. Councillor Duthie, seconded by Councillor Michele. All those in favor? That is carried. And that leads us to near the end. Notices of motion, there would appear to be none. Other business? Any other business? Anybody? Nothing? Okay. Announcements? Any announcements? Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brunton. Last week, in place of Mayor Martin, I had the privilege of cutting the ribbon for the 4-day walk-in clinic in Delhi at the Delhi Community Health Center. So now that center will be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's open to all, anybody and everybody, no restrictions. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Councillor Duthie.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of events, actually, that I think may be worth noting. There is the provincial MPP candidate debate night that's happening on the 18th of February, hosted by the Simcoe Chamber. That's at the Legion. And also February 28th to March 2nd is the Norfolk Home and Lifestyle Show, again put on by the Simcoe Chamber of Commerce. That starts at 4 p.m. that Friday. And that is taking place at the Odd.
So I didn't quite hear that. The 18th is at the Legion?
The 18th is at the Simcoe Legion. Start time is 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Any other
sorry, Mr. Chair, my apologies for interrupting. I do believe it will be live streamed and recorded also.
Okay, all right. Any other announcements? Seeing none. We have no late session today. I guess we need a motion to adjourn at 4:29 p.m. 3:29, I'm sorry. Again, there's a glare on the light. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Huffman, seconded by Councillor Michele. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, folks.